So we finally had some Liverpool news, but it's not news that supporters are likely to welcome, with the Reds now out of the race to sign Lille defender Leny Yoro. I had previously reported about Liverpool's interest in the 18-year-old on this channel and spoken about the fact really that their expectation had always been this summer that he would end up at Real Madrid. Instead, obviously, that is, it was considered Yoro's dream club and obviously a perfect move for him at this stage of his career if he could make it. But instead of a move to Real Madrid, he's actually joining Liverpool's rivals, Manchester United. Now, the detail of that deal, which they're closing in on, he's over in England now for a medical and to put the finishing touches to a move and sign his contract. And it's believed to be for a fee in the region of £50 million, which is, as you have to say, is kind of on the expensive side for a teenager when he's only got 1 year remaining on his contract. And there was kind of a belief there that maybe Yoro would hold on and maybe even see out his final year so that he could make that move to Real Madrid. But in the end, obviously, it's proven that that is too expensive for Real Madrid. They don't think that the value is there for a move for that price. And Liverpool seemingly have also agreed with them by allowing Manchester United a free run, really, at the player. And I wanted to kind of dive into the reasons why that might be, because Manchester United provided an opportunity there for Liverpool, didn't they? By agreeing a fee with Lille first, the chance was there to say, okay, we know what the bar is, we know what the money we have to put in front of Lille to agree a deal is. Can we get there? If we can do that also, then we get in front of the player and then you get a chance to make a pitch. But Liverpool have obviously opted not to do that. They're opted not to challenge Manchester United. So I wanted to have a think really about why. Money is probably a primary factor in a lot of these things. And that, when you talk about money and transfers, I guess it's not just about, can they afford it or can they not? I think Liverpool, with the revenues that they make, it's not a question of that. But we know, particularly with Michael Edwards being back and the way that they operate around transfers, that they will be very stringent around player values. They won't go for a player if they think that the money isn't right and it isn't value at that amount. And again, judging from what we're hearing and the fact that they haven't rather Manchester United here, they don't think £50 million for a player who is in the final year of his contract, is 18, is very limited in terms of first team experience, even though they know he's a remarkable talent, don't get me wrong. They don't think that the value is there at that price. And another reason, again, relating to money, is the wages. We're hearing around £150,000 a week. Now, that would put him quite near Liverpool's top earners, you have to say, again, for an 18-year-old who's coming in with very limited first-team experience. And we know, again, part of Liverpool's approach to transfers is very much about, have they got enough minutes behind them in the first team to know that this signing is not going to fail? If it feels like there's an element of a gamble there, Liverpool would like to drive the price down, and clearly they couldn't do that in this situation. And it looks like that's created a little bit of a situation whereby they don't think that the money is worth it. And again, when you talk about value, you have to think, is it going to prove value to the first team right now? Obviously, if you're paying £50 million and £150,000 a week to a centre half, a young centre half particularly, you have to think, how much of an impact are they going to have on the first team in the coming years, or over the length of that, or certainly the first few years of that contract? I think for Manchester United, the value might be there on the basis of that gamble might be worth taking on whether he's ready or not, because they've got a dearth of quality options at centre half, haven't they? Obviously, Raphael Varane leaving this summer, and I think it's clear that Manchester United do need a quality centre half, so they can guarantee that when he comes next season, there's a lot of minutes for him there. He could even be a first team starter from the start of the season if he adapts really well. So whereas for Liverpool, it's harder to make that argument. They've got Kanate, they've got Van Dijk, they've got Kwanzaa, who emerged and was so good last season, and also Joe Gomez there as well. But so you'd argue that Yoro's best chance really was being probably in and around fourth choice centre half to start his Liverpool career. And again, this is not to do down his talent. This clearly a player that Liverpool like and think he's going to big things. But at the moment, could they justify dropping that amount of money when they probably couldn't guarantee he would be anything more than fourth choice? And again, I've no doubt that if that conversation has taken place, that from Liverpool's perspective, to sell to the player, it would be hard to say we can guarantee you minutes. If they can't do that, and Manchester United can, I think it's a sensible play from the perspective from the player to think to go to Manchester United instead. Now, of course, I'm saying all this, and I don't want this to come across as trying to justify it. I think maybe Liverpool will live to regret this. Maybe Yoro will go on to be an unbelievable centre half for Manchester United and look like the one that got away from Liverpool and one that they really should have gone in for. But clearly, I think Liverpool and Real Madrid's thinking around this is probably pretty similar in terms of they probably couldn't justify dropping that amount of money on a player who they didn't think would come in and be an initial first team starter, and clearly for Manchester United maybe he would. Now, as I say, that could end up being a great decision for Manchester United and a poor one for Real Madrid and a poor one for Liverpool as well. But these are the types of decisions that your sporting structure and your people who are in charge of transfers, they have to make on every time the transfer window comes around. And as I say, it could be a massive mistake. We will have to see. But, there's been a lot of talk about Michael Edwards' return, the fact he's putting his staff in place. And I guess for Liverpool supporters, the argument is that he's very highly rated sporting director, putting in people who think in similar ways around transfers. And you have to think that, that he believes that their judgment is similar on these types of things. Now, if that's the case, then I guess this is going to be one of the first real tests of it, whether they were right to pass on Yoro and allow Manchester United a free run, or whether they really should have gone in for him and spent the money and it would have been worth it. As I say, the proof will be in the pudding in terms of how things play out next season. But I guess, like I say, for Michael Edwards, this is the kind of decision that he's paid to make, and he'll have to live and die by whether this is the right one or not. And as I say, we will see how that one really pans out, and whether they were right about this one, or whether Yoro goes on to be a Manchester United legend, and Liverpool will regret not just splashing that money out on him and putting him amongst the highest earners at such a young age or not. Now, I wanted to talk about moving on from Yoro because there have been a few links with defenders actually in recent weeks, and that seems to be an area that Liverpool are definitely looking at. No guarantees they're going to sign in those positions as ever, because it's very hard to predict what will happen in the transfer window. But I did want to go into a couple of links because they have been kind of shot down recently really by Liverpool, and the first of those is Marc Guehi at Crystal Palace. Have been suggestions that Liverpool have been in talks with his representatives, that they're considering a move for him, and on the basis of his performance in the tournament in the European Championship for England. You can see these, and also of course for Crystal Palace in recent years, you can see obviously very highly rated and very talented defender. But it's my understanding that Liverpool aren't going to move for Marc Guehi this summer. He's not a player they're looking at. I think a couple of reasons you can maybe think around that. He's not particularly aerially dominant in the way that Liverpool like around the centre halves. Is it something they definitely like because they press so high? They usually like the centre backs to be able to, when that ball comes long, as a resistance to press, as a sides look to deal with the press and just go long instead and punt it so they don't lose it around their box. Then Liverpool like to have an aerially dominant centre half there, and I wouldn't think that Marc Guehi really fits that profile. So I am just speculating on that. It's maybe the reason they're not in for him, but I can guarantee that is a player that Liverpool aren't going to pursue this summer. And there's another link that's come up this last week or so as well, which is Mohamed Simakan at RB Leipzig. Now, he's profile-wise described as a centre-back and a right-back, so can play both. But my understanding, again, it's not a player that Liverpool are chasing at the moment. Now, you can see why the link came about. Obviously, he's a versatile defender. Liverpool like versatile players. Plays at Leipzig, which again, they like players who've been at those Red Bull clubs, don't they? But again, I would say, centre-half and right-back. Now, right-back, they've got such ridiculous depth in that area. They don't really need someone who has got that ability to play there. So they would obviously only be looking at Simakan as a centre-half. And is he that outstanding centre-half that they're looking for? I would say maybe not. And again, whatever the reasons, it just doesn't look like this is a player that Liverpool are going to look at. Now, again, as I say, I always say this, in terms of justifications or reasons why that might be, Liverpool will live or die by whether that is the right decision or not. Not really for me to judge whether that is. I'm sure you will all have your opinions, and do let me know in the comments. I don't maybe watch as much football from other leagues to maybe know if these are the right players, but as I say, Simakan not really the player they're looking for. And as I say, maybe the fact he plays at right back, that's not something they're looking for at the moment. Could be different if maybe a Joe Gomez leaves or whatever. Maybe that opens things up to maybe change things. But at the moment, Mohamed Simakan, one you can cross out as definitely not a player that Liverpool are going to pursue this summer. Now, I think that leads in really to an interesting talking point, which is the fact that, a lot of links have been shot down this summer, and it is really quiet at the moment. I really wanted to kind of talk about that. Now, I do try and always give my understanding from sources and look into that, but I do also want to give a little bit of my personal view on this about why things are so quiet at the moment. And I think really you do kind of have to take, don't you, Richard Hughes at his word. I was at the press conference the other day when he said that, look, this is a window, I think, with the tournaments and the way things are, that it's going to be a window where things really kick off much later in the window. He doesn't expect that it's going to be really busy until the tournaments have subsided, the ability to speak to players is there. And I think that's for a couple of reasons, really. Obviously, for Liverpool, if they've got any interest in players who were at the tournaments, that is crucial to wait until they've played those tournaments, they've got through that, then you can start the talks with the clubs, and then the players are available to, and they've had the holiday, they can do the talks, do the medical, do all that. And so that is crucial. But I also think, and again, I emphasise that this is a personal view on this, that I think outgoings are going to have a big say in terms of the shape of Liverpool's window, really. And my belief in that is because I think it kind of goes under the radar that, yes, Liverpool need to strengthen. I think the things they'll want to do to give Arne Slot the best chance possible going into his first season in charge. But it kind of goes under the radar, as I say, that Liverpool are really well stocked in a lot of positions. They've got an awful lot of choices across the pitch. Now, you don't want a bloated squad, and that's something Liverpool have worked with, for a long time. They don't like to have squad bloat. I don't think that's just a Jurgen Klopp thing. I think it's a Liverpool thing. I think this, the view is very much going to be similar this summer as well, that they don't want to operate in that way. And I think that, in terms of why I think outgoings are going to be so influential is because I think, there is a potential, if you add players into this squad, that you can't really give them the games. I mean, you look at Thiago Alcantara going, obviously, so in theory that opens up a space in midfield, but for me, he didn't even play a minute last season, and Liverpool didn't miss him. Similar with Stefan Bajcetic, he is now back in the squad. And you've got all the midfielders there who played all the minutes already. So there's a lot of central midfielders as a really good example of maybe a position they might not want to sign in unless there was some movement there. Again, Joel Matip leaving on a free transfer. Well, Jarell Quansah stepped in and took his spot in the squad anyway. So, as I say, I just think it's a summer that maybe outgoings could, really dictate what happens, and there is real possibility for that to happen. We've been hearing, for the last few months about Luis Diaz and what might happen there. So again, if Barcelona do firm up that interest, that creates an opportunity. And there are others in the squad that are question marks. Does Joe Gomez believe there are enough minutes for him in the squad going into next season? Is he happy with his role in the squad? Kostas Tsimikas is one I always use as an example. Is he happy with that role of backup left back going into next season? Does he think there's enough minutes for him? Particularly as he played so infrequently towards the back end of last season. Will he think it might be better to go and play elsewhere, and will there be interest in it? So I think, all these little subplots and possibilities in terms of outgoings, I think that is going to play a big role in terms of Liverpool's window, because I just don't see the spaces at the moment for a lot of minutes, or how they could promise those to incoming players. But these things will change in terms of outgoings, and there is talk of interest in Liverpool players. So if that does get firmed up, I think that is key really to how Liverpool's window is going to play out. So I think, as I say, a few things, what Hughes said about the tournaments in terms of that having an influence, but also, as I said, outgoings potentially sort of maybe delaying Liverpool's business and ensuring they have to sort of keep the powder dry and still until the window starts moving really for clubs as a whole. Because I would say that it has largely been quiet. There's not been an awful lot of moves, not just at Liverpool, but in clubs in general. So we really are going to, I think the sporting director really nailed it there when he said that maybe we're going to just see a crazy end to this transfer window. And I would say that I'm sure there are plenty of Liverpool fans who hope that is the case, and we will have to see. But I would always say, look, there's a long way to go, not time to panic yet. A lot of this window left, and still a long time until Liverpool play that first Premier League game. So, we've still got the whole pre-season tour to come as well. So an awful long way to go before it's time to panic. And it also would emphasise that, you think some of Liverpool's signings last summer came completely out of the blue. I'm thinking Dominic Szoboszlai, Wataru Endo, the first we heard of those, then a couple of days later they're having the medical and holding up the shirt. So these things happen very quickly. It's not anything to get worried about. And as I always say, the first place you can get updates, of course, is by following this YouTube channel. It really appreciate everybody who subscribes, and as I say, if you want these transfer updates regularly, then please do subscribe. And if you can like this video as well, always helpful in terms of getting it out there. And I will always remind you as well that I'm David Lynch LFC on YouTube, on Substack as well, which I've just started up. Well worth subscribing to. If you can get on there, all my written stuff will go on there. Twitter, or X as we're calling it now, Threads and Facebook as well. So those are usually all the places that you can get the Liverpool updates, not just transfer news but everything else, all the match coverage and everything else I do. So please do check those out if you're interested. Now we'll leave it there, and as I always say, hopefully some more transfer news to come, hopefully some news on income is to come, and so hopefully I will see you very soon.